This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
I just was going back through my notes. The last time we sat down and you did this for me was 2011.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And obviously it's evolved into a full-blown podcast now.
Nice.
You're going to be like the 600th. You were probably one of the 20th guests before, but now we're in the 600s. And the other day I was thinking about one of the stories that you had told me, and I was so curious how it has evolved into the self-taping process. But when we sat down and we went through a lot of your audition stories, it was right after I'd worked with Clifton Collins Jr., and he had done an interview where I rewrite every one of my auditions. Everyone. Then I asked you, I was like, do you rewrite your auditions? And you're like, oh yeah, for sure I do. And so I had thought about that now that we're in this like self-taping land. And I want to know, do you still do that? Are you even still auditioning, Mark?
The business has changed quite a bit. So right now I'm auditioning for things that I would have been offered 2 or 3 years ago.
100%.
So the structure is very strange. So I'm auditioning a lot, which I don't mind because I like practice. So for me, auditioning is just practicing. But the thing I love about self-taping is that you have total and absolute control over everything. So it's not like you have those elements of the audition that are like all the bad elements of performing in public with no rehearsal whatsoever. And sometimes a group of folks that don't quite understand that you can use a couple of times to get it out of your system. So you have all the detractions of a live performance without all of the benefit of rehearsal that you have when you're doing a play. So now you can just there's so much more freedom to play with everything. And yeah, I always try to just know what I'm doing, know what the thoughts are, know what I'm trying to achieve and how I feel about it. And if I'm off the words, it doesn't matter so much. If I'm on the thought, that's what matters to me more than anything.
Yes, I think I was explaining, I had an interview earlier and we were talking about this, about how when we used to go in the room, it was usually the mistakes that got you hired. It would be like when you dropped the line, right? Or something so outlandish happened, or you improv'd. That's usually, it wasn't the perfect audition that got you it now. And now with the self-taping process, I see a lot of actors, I work with a lot of actors that they're like, oh, I messed up. And I'm like, oh God, it was the best take. You actually, the line left you because you were so in here. Just stay in here. Work your way through it. No producer, most producers, yes, they're familiar with the material, but they haven't read it. They're just watching your tape. And if they're moved by something, that's mostly what's going to get you the job. You don't need to go so outlandish, so way out of line. But if you're just staying in it, it's the essence that when they're watching tape after tape, it's not the perfect audition that's, I think, landing you the job at all.
No, it's the most organic. It's the most alive. And I'll tell you something. The great thing about being an actor is the audience, even an audience who's looking at you for a potential job, they're suspending disbelief. They're less critical than you think. So they're already in the imaginary circumstances. And when you're quiet for a minute or two, they don't know that you've gone up on your lines. It could be to them, it could be reading as you're processing or thinking. I'll give you a perfect example. This happened during a play, and not just any play, but Hamlet. Okay. I had rehearsed Hamlet for 2 years. I read the play twice a day for 2 years. And then my wife and I produced it and put it up at the theater company that I used to teach at and used to work out of all the time. And we put it up for 3 months. And there was a fear in the back of my head. Wow, you can't improvise Hamlet. If you go up, you're fucked. So one day, maybe after about 10 or 11 or 12 performances, I went up in the middle of To Be or Not to Be. Now, we had a small theater, so there was like 75 seats, but we packed 120 people in there. So it's a very packed theater. And here I am in the middle of To Be or Not to Be speech, the most important speech in Hamlet, probably in almost the entire English language. I went up and all I did was just pause there and review where I was in my head and then picked it up where I left off. But to them, they just thought I was thinking. Which I was, in fact, thinking. I was actually thinking, or trying to recall exactly what I had said, and then where I had left off. Now, That's not normally the way I like to do things. I like to actually be filled with the thought and filled with the action and let that, and usually you don't go up when you have that stuff going on. But when times like that happen, the actor has to know that they don't know what's going on. The audience doesn't know. They're just assuming everything you're doing is true.
Yeah. And I think we all lean in when there's that space, whether that's you're searching for your line, you're thinking about breakfast, you're actually taking a like designated beat. Usually when somebody's searching for something, something is happening. So we're leaning in during that moment versus.
Exactly.
I think it's beautiful. Mark, okay, you have been working for 4 decades now. That's
getting up there. It's getting up there.
It's okay. And when I sat down with you last time, since it was for the book, we were doing like audition story after audition story. Since it's called That One Audition, I could poke through so many places in your career that I would love to know about. But I want to know from you, like, what is that one audition or few auditions that you want to share that are life-changing, life lessons, pivotal moments, or just, again, sometimes the business just hands you the lesson in the audition process or even on set that I think a lot of other actors love hearing from somebody in the hot seat, that whatever they can glean from it.
I've had auditions where I was like, they are not smart if they don't hire me, because that was one of the best auditions I've ever gotten. And you realize that when you didn't get hired, I've even gotten one comment. This was years ago, back when I thought I had to be all methody. I went up for a movie called Popcorn, which became a little horror movie that they shot in Jamaica. A couple of my friends actually worked on it. And they were like, here was their feedback to my agents. He's the best actor we've seen. We're not going to hire him. Now, it's not because they thought I was difficult. It's just that there's a cast chemistry that people are looking for. That's why they do chemistry reads, right? If they want people that are going to be an ensemble working together for a while, they want to make sure that chemistry sort of clicks. And it's not really a twist of fate. They got to see it. They got to see for themselves. And I've been fortunate enough to be on a number of casts for years where the whole cast just does click. And oddly enough, many of those types of auditions where I thought I knocked it out of the park. I'll give you another example. Okay. I don't know if I told you this story before, but I was reading for this movie that Charlie Sheen was going to do. And it was like a cop movie. I don't remember what it was right now, but it was like I was an undercover cop in it, and I get caught and I get tortured by these cartel guys, and it's this whole thing. And I thought, it's okay, but I don't really think they're going to see me in this, and they could just pick anybody for this. So I'm going to not do the audition this way. And so I literally took a book by Mark Baker called Cops, which is a series of stories that cops tell. He's written a number of them, one called Nurses, one called Nom, one called Cops. And we use them at Playhouse West as a way of ramping up to doing what they call spoon rivers, which is how you learn how to do speeches and monologues and stuff like that. So I took this one story that really moved me, but it was 7 pages long, which means if I'm going at a normal pace, that's 8 or 9 minutes right there that I'm taking up. This is a no-no. Every casting director will say in the world, don't take more than a minute. Don't do anything more than a minute long speech. So I go in and I work on this 7-page long speech with a buddy of mine from Playhouse. I don't even look at the sides anymore. Okay. And I'm going into a casting office I've never been into before. This is when Gino Havens was alive. I'd never seen him before. He'd been in the business for years, but this was my first meeting with him. So I go there all prepared with my stuff. The casting assistant comes out. She says, Mark, are you ready? I said, yes. Could you do me a favor? Could you go in there and tell everybody that I'm not doing the material? I've got something else I'm going to bring in. And she looks at me like this.
Oh, shit.
Okay. And she disappears for about 3 minutes. And she comes back and she brings me in to a room full of producers and the young director and Gino Havens. And I'm like, hi, everybody. And I could tell immediately she hasn't told them a thing. So I sit down in the seat and the director, so we're changing the part a little bit, just so you know. I say, oh, okay. They say, now he's just going to be a straight bad guy. I said, that's too bad because I really liked the undercover element. It gave the character a little bit of complexity. And they're like, oh, okay. Thank you for your feedback, your unsolicited feedback. Another thing you're not supposed to do probably in an audition, but I did it anyway. And they said, are you ready? I said, yes. I'm going to do something else though. So just roll the camera and we'll go from there. They said, okay. And they rolled the camera, and I proceeded to do this speech that was about a detective in New York who catches a rapist. And he thinks this girl is wonderful and he wants to save her, basically. And he finds the rapist who raped her. And it's a story that just goes everywhere emotionally. And it just so happened I was in the zone that day. And when I was done, they were all like, oh my God. They turned off the thing. They're like, that was unbelievable. I can't believe you did that. I said, thank you. And they said, thank you very much. And I didn't get the part. But then 3 weeks later, Gino Havens called me in for a little movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Tom Berenger called A Murder of Crows. And the first thing he says when I walk in the door is, that was the best audition I've ever seen in my life. And he'd been in the business for 30 years. And I did get that part. I got A Murder of Crows. I just didn't get the Charlie Sheen movie.
I know. I do remember you telling me this because it was a series of stuff like this where I remember walking away after talking to you being like, can I do that? Can an actress do that? Can somebody not of Mark's stature did that? But the commitment to it, the text, everything, it still was in the world. It still worked. And exactly what you just said, you booked the room. You didn't have to book the part. Like they bring you love. That's the best audition they'd ever seen in 30 years. You can't beat that.
Luckily I did a bold move and I was in the zone. It's another thing. And this is definitely when you swing big, you might fail big. It might be that one of those days where you're just not on your game, but it's important to swing big and it's important to take control of the room without being a dick. And all I did was request what I wanted. I'll give you another example, which I may have already told you. I'm not sure.
I love your stories. That's why I was like, Mark needs to come back and do this on mic. Yeah.
Yeah. So David Lynch would never audition anybody. Right? He just looked at people's headshots and then he sorted out headshots that he liked. And then he would have you come in and you would, I guess, talk, right? He'd film you and you'd talk. I knew I was doomed at that time because I was, how old was I? Late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have my head up my ass when I'm like talking extemporaneously. You learn to, once you start working in networks a lot and you have to become a politician for the show, you learn to talk better around press and stuff like that. But at the time I was like a complete imbecile and I'm like, this is going to kill me. I'm going to do so bad. So I actually recommended, I think it was Joanna Ray who was casting. I said, look, if I just sit here and talk, I'm going to be forcing shit all over the place because I'm going to want to try to be interesting and that's going to be very uninteresting. And so how about if we talk about something I'm super passionate about? And she says, okay, what's that? And it just so happened that the O.J. Simpson trial was going on at the time. I said, let's talk O.J. And she's like, okay. She turns on the thing and we start talking about the trial. And of course, I lose myself in the conversation, which is great. You want to lose yourself in your work. And her dog eventually jumps in my lap. I'm petting the dog. I'm playing. The dog's licking my face. I'm playing with the dog, still carrying on a conversation, but not at all concerned about making an impression anymore. Just actually getting into the nitty gritty of this crazy narrative that I was so interested in. And that got me the part for Mulholland Drive. And so it's like, the more interested you are in what you are doing, the more interested they will be in what you are doing.
I think that's exactly it. You had told me that incredible stories. I just remember the dog.
Yeah.
I'm so curious from a business standpoint, since you've worked in so many iterations of the business changing. Before we had streaming, when it was like, okay, now we have web series. Okay, now we had the strikes and we have this. Now we're on self-tape. What do you think has carried you through every iteration of the change? I think I know exactly what this is, the type of actor that you are, but what has helped you stay in the game through all these pivots?
Yeah, part of it is luck because when COVID happened, I had been cast in a show called American Rust. And I had just come off of doing multiple shows, but Supernatural was, I was a series regular through the last 3 or 4 seasons of that while doing other shows that I was recurring on at the same time. And I got offered American Rust because Dan Fetterman was doing it, who wrote Capote. and Adam Rapp. And so literally right when we landed in Pittsburgh to do the first reading, the COVID virus was like hit and they started locking everything down. They literally sent us home the next day. I actually did part of the reading, but I did it from my hotel room. So via phone. And then we weren't able to pick up the show for 9 months or so. And then I did this show and was fortunate enough to do 2 seasons of that, which got me through the COVID stuff. But then the strikes hit right after COVID was done. And that's now, since that time, it's been strange, right? Mm-hmm. So since the strikes hit, things that I've normally, as I said before, things that I normally get offered, now I'm auditioning for, and I'm assuming because the prices now, or the price ranges are much different. And now the competition, because of the price ranges being so low, it's now a different thing. They don't have to offer Pellegrino this part anymore for the amount of money that I would normally get. Now I have to throw myself in the group, which I don't mind because I love just practicing.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate enough I hit a good deal of the auditions that I go for because I work hard at it.
That's what I was going to say. You've always been the actor to me that, even look at a couple of stories you just shared. And I forgot I wanted to ask about Capote too, because it was you and Clifton. And I remember his audition story for that too. But you and Clifton are cut from the same cloth and different instruments. You guys go so far above and beyond what is asked of an actor because you love it. Not because you're getting paid for it. The deeper you can go, the more interesting you can make it. And it's not even, I'm going to make this interesting. Clifton will stay up all hours of the night to make sure he has like the punctuation right or rewrite a scene. That to me is a journeyman actor. You are a journeyman actor. And it doesn't matter what the medium is. So you've always hung on, and not even hung on, you've made the audition process full on. Not even a performance is the wrong word for it. Like you fully
a rehearsal.
A rehearsal, yes.
Yeah,
that's a perfect word for it. You and Clifton have always approached a room in which I've tried to implement myself, where it's a collaboration, where you go in and you're like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to do it. And then we can have a discussion about it, or this is how it's going to serve best. And I want more actors to hear stories like this, not from an arrogant place, not from an ego place. It's from really servicing the story and servicing yourself as the instrument that gets to tell whatever story it is that you're being invited into. So you two are the ones that have always, I'm always flabbergasted by the commitment and then the execution through that commitment. And so that's what I think. Like, it doesn't matter if you're going to be 90, Mark, still doing this. I feel like you'll always find that interest. Like, oh, we're doing verticals now? Okay, great. Here's what I think will be great on this 90-second vertical. I just think that you enjoy the medium so much.
I do. In fact, I just did an independent TV series for some friends that called A Motel. Now, they populated the cast with people who were more or less funding the film who weren't really actors. And one day I had a 40-page day, literally a 40-page day. I think the most I've ever had in a day was 12 pages. And that's with a crew that was completely together, and I'd been together for a decade. And you're able to zip through stuff pretty easily. But a 40-page day, never. So that was quite a challenge. Unfortunately, it limited our shot range and stuff because they had to keep cameras where they were, and we just changed out outfits, and I had to know where I was in the series at every minute of the day. But that was a little bit difficult. But I did that for barely anything. And I've done a couple of things recently, shorts for free for my friends, just because I like working. Oh, this is practice. Okay, I'm not getting paid for it, but it's practice, and that's how I get better at what I do. And there's always a time to get better. I remember real quickly, I'll tell you this. I went to this philosopher one time and I was like, I'm always so dissatisfied with shit. Why am I so unhappy with my work? Why? And he showed me this picture, this statue that he had of Mercury. And Mercury had one hand up and one hand just below it. I'll try to do it without dropping my mic. Like this. Mm-hmm. And he said, Mark, in life, this one is your potential, and the lower hand, that's where you are. And every time you raise up where you are, your potential rises too. So be content with this level of dissatisfaction. But then I went beyond that, and I realized that, what the fuck am I so serious about? I've studied this technique. I've taught it for 20 years. And really, when it comes down to it, it's just about playing. So just relax and play and just trust the homework that you've done. And if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, whatever happens is true. And that's going to be more interesting than what you make up.
Completely. I love that the potential rises. Okay, because I already said it. I want to hear the Capote story.
So Capote, now I bonded with Avi Kaufman over National Treasure. So I went up for the main villain of National Treasure, but it happened 4 days after my cat of 21 years passed away. So I was like in an uncontrollable state of emotion. So I think maybe, I don't recall exactly, but I think maybe during my audition, while I was in the middle of a scene, which might have been emotional, I got intensely emotional. Like I started bawling. And when I let it go and we filmed the whole thing. And when I was done, I was like, Avi, I don't know if that was right or not, but I'm just devastated because I lost my cat of 21 years. So and I started bawling again in front of her. And then she started crying because she had a story with her animal and we just bonded. And ever since then, she brought me in on stuff and some stuff I would get, some stuff not. But the audition for Bennett Miller was interesting because this was Bennett's first movie. Bennett, I learned, first of all, he's a super fast learner, which I discovered on the set. And I could tell you that story in a minute, but he also has cues that are a little different than most people. So if he's smiling he thinks you're full of shit. And if he's dead serious and you think, oh, fuck, he hated that. He loves it because he actually resonated with it. I think I discovered that in the audition process. And I don't remember the exact elements to the audition other than, and I don't even remember the scenes specifically, but I do remember sitting up there in front of Avi and in front of Bennett and working on these scenes in a very improvisational and fun way. We weren't mired in dialogue, even though it was Dan Fetterman wrote it and later got nominated for an Academy Award for it. He wasn't precious about the words. He was just precious about having a real stuff behind it. And it turned out really fun. And then Bennett, I noticed he started out when we started doing the filming, he started out doing what normal directors do, which is they say action. And then you have to act. I guess after about a week with Philip, who was a friend of his from college anyway, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Catherine and Chris Cooper and Bruce Greenwood, all these great actors, he finally got out of the thing of saying action, which was a surprise to me because one day I show up on the set and then the cameraman just says set. And I take my own cue and I can go from wherever I want in the scene to wherever the scene is going. And I had learned from Jeff Bridges, not to start at the point where they're saying action, but to start before. So yes, I would play, and then boom, the scene would happen. And that was from Bennett, I think, learning from really fine actors that the action thing, it makes you tense and it makes you see, oh, suddenly I'm on when you don't really want to feel like you're on.
No, I feel like that even when I'm taping other people, I'll just maybe count down 3, 2. I got that from watching Tarantino on set, getting to watch him direct, and he gets so excited he'd have to contain himself and he'll just be like, whenever you're ready, or he would he would make hand movements, right, and then just get quiet. It does something to the system when you're like, and rolling, okay, I'm going into a performative nature versus I'm inviting something in to witness my experience.
That's totally natural. And I wish more directors, I think the really good directors understand that process and they leave you alone. I remember they were setting up the camera for Jim Carrey and I in a number 23. And one of us said something about, oh boy, where should I stand? And Joel was like, this is Joel Schumacher. He said, don't worry about it. Don't even think about it. Do whatever you do. We're going to make the cameras go around you. Whatever you find in these rehearsals that we're going to, don't worry. We'll set the camera accordingly, which is nice because you don't get a chance to rehearse. You get on the set. It's new. It's a new space. You don't really know how to use the space because you haven't lived in it for a while. So you have to find ways to live in the space. And a lot of times, did I tell you my Kim Manners story? I don't know if I told you my Kim.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Please tell. Yeah.
I was working on X-Files. I was doing a guest star on X-Files, and Kim Manners was directing it. The great Kim Manners. He was an awesome dude. And he liked to set up everything in advance. So he would set up all the shots in advance and he would block out all the acting in advance for the actor. And you come into the set and he'd tell you exactly what he wanted to do. So I come into the set. This might have been my first day. So my first day is, okay, Mark, here's what we're going to do. You're going to do it. And you're going to say your line here. Then you're going to walk over here and do this. And then you're going to say your line over there. And they're going to come over here and do that. And he gives me the whole thing. I think about it for a second. And I'm like, wouldn't it be better if I said my line here and then I did this and I walked over there and then did this and then that? And then he sat there and thought about it and he goes, you're actually right, but we have 34 setups to do today and you got to do it my way.
And
so that was great.
That was great that he gave you the validation, but there is something, soaps do this. Some television shows that are moving so fast, they block before, and then it's your job to try and make some logical sense of why your character is going to go over there and longingly look out the window while you're screaming at somebody. It makes no sense, but sure, we're going to make that. But it does cripple the liberty of the creation, of being in the moment a little bit. You've been working for a very long time, but you've also been coaching for 20 plus years now. It's been a while.
Yeah.
What is your nurturing style other than reading the script? How do you work with actors, or what are the common kind of couple of things that you see actors do when they're in the pressurized situation, when it's for an audition and they're coming to work with you? What are the things you anchor into first?
Mostly the coaching that I do isn't necessarily for audition specific stuff. My wife does a lot of that because she has a school in Paris right now. And so the actors come to her for auditions as well as just teaching the normal class. But I will give students general principles. So every script that I get, I try to read 100 times if I can. If you don't have that much time, but it's like Anthony Hopkins says, it's like Walton Goggins repeating what Anthony Hopkins and Robert Duvall said when he worked with them. I read the script 250 times, then I give myself over to the given circumstances, yada, yada. That's true. No matter what technique you study, and no matter what that technique tells you to do with respect to homework, there's almost nothing comparable to reading the script 200 times, like literally over and over again. The story embeds itself in your gut, and your subconscious is a very powerful thing. It's what we try to unlock when we're really paying attention to somebody or we're really doing things. We're unlocking our subconscious. We're taking our awareness off of ourselves and letting whatever is inside of us out. When you've read something 250 times, you know it. You know where you are in the story. You know it at a gut level, at an almost cellular level. And the homework that you have to do has almost been done for you by that huge thing we have in our brains called the subconscious, which knows everything in the world and has every human experience in the world within it. And all you have to do is just let go and let it play. And that's essentially what good acting technique amounts to, is letting your subconscious come out and play. And that's what I've come to after years and years, even beating a technique to death, like over techniquing things, and really about doing less and understanding more and just knowing how you feel about stuff and letting it happen.
Do you ever do dream work, Mark? Have you ever dabbled in that? Because I feel like you've dabbled in every technique from when we talked before, that you had played in every arena.
Yeah, I play with everything. I do stuff like that from time to time, just as a sort of investigative tool and as a sort of self-growth tool.
I just think it's just calling on the subconscious even more. If you've been reading the script again and again, there's something really interesting, I think, that I sometimes can evoke that I'm not thinking. My subconscious kind of brings it all to the forefront if I'm working with dream work.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created The Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
Okay, so Murdoch murders. I
The
want to.
Murdoch murders. Yes, Murdoch.
Michael Fuller, friend, very excited for this series. How did you
It's gonna
have
be
to?
good.
It's
It's gonna
gonna
be
be
good.
good. Did
Yeah,
you
it's
have
gonna
to
be good.
audition, or was this
I
the
did.
you did?
I did have to audition, but I auditioned for Alec Murdoch's brother. I don't know. Do you know the story very much at all? Have you been paying
I
attention?
do. I do. Yes.
Because there's been like multiple documentaries
Yes.
of it and all that. Yeah, so I auditioned for his brother, who he gets in a fight with because he thinks his brother's backstabbing him and wants to get control of the firm.
Mm.
And they instead got me to audition for the part of Cousin Eddie, this guy. I can only say so much because I think Cousin Eddie, he's lawsuit happy. He's a distant relation to Alec Murdoch, and he was very good friends with him, and he would do things for Alec. And I can't say what those things were, but he was a fixer. He fixed the property, he fixed other things for Alec. And a character that Maggie, played by Patricia Arquette, wasn't a fan of, but who was but still a part of the family nonetheless. So I play him. And I did have to audition, and then I had to do a callback audition. And I happened to be at a convention when I did the callback. So I had to leave the convention floor and do it by Zoom. And I've never done an audition by Zoom. I don't believe in those.
That was your first Zoom?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk, because people are doing a lot of chemistry reads
Yeah.
by Zoom. It's sometimes a little funky. So what was your experience with this? How did it go? And at this point, it's all for Cousin Eddie. It's not.
It's all for Cousin Eddie. Yeah. And I made them laugh. They laughed their asses off, which was good. All I did was have fun. And it's even easier to have fun because the medium it's so distancing. It's not real. And I was working with John Papsadera, who's a casting director I always love to work with because John throws himself into the work too as an actor. He gives you a lot of stuff to work off of and play with, which was it's always really fun to work with him, especially in person. But I hadn't seen him in a while, so it was nice to reconnect with him. So it's like anything you do, so long as you're having fun and engaged. It's a little weird doing it like this. It still translates. Your passion translates. I had to do they put together a whole series of scenes from Atlas Shrugged and made it into a play for this institute that we had to do. And I played John Galt. And I was like, I'm terribly miscast for John Galt, but all right, I'll do it anyway. And it was like this because it was during COVID. We had to do the whole thing like this. But I remember doing this speech, and John Galt has a speech that goes on for 80 pages. Luckily, they cut it down to a page and a half at my behest. I was like, you got to cut this shit. I literally told the artistic director, cut, because it's really didactic and nobody wants to be talked at. Even though there's going to be a group of people at this fundraiser that agree with her principles, don't make it really relatable. And the speeches, all the stuff turned out to be really fun. I was like, wow, I had a great time doing that, surprisingly. And it was over this kind of format. So technically, that Zoom audition was probably the second time I've been on Zoom acting. And the principles are all the same. If you're just having fun and you're listening and you're in the moment and you're letting your homework be what it is, it'll translate through. You don't have as much, you can't be as,
well, as somebody that I think really commanded the room, I would just be so curious how you would command your Zoom room. Some people, I like it. I'm at home. I'm in my comfort zone. I can really utilize, and I like to make jokes as soon as we get on. It's so we can at least have some banter. But some people really struggle with it. Everybody's like, we got to get back in the room. I'm like, I think we're okay. We're doing okay in this hybrid situation.
I agree. And you know what, also, not to interrupt, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel like when you're doing shows that go on for a little bit of time, your instinct to banter or joke is actually a good instinct. It's something that I didn't have early on. I would come in and the method actor had to work. It's going to work. And we can't really talk about stuff until I'm done working. But really, I realized over time, and a lecture from my agent, who just told me to be lighter when I go in there. But I realized that, holy fuck, they're not just watching my acting. They're going, do I want to live with this guy for 6 years?
That part.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of difference. If they're going to hire you, if you're good anyway, but they also want to know that they can live with you for 6 years. You're a team player. You're not a dick, and you're not like Jared Leto. You're going to be sending dead rats to people to practice.
Yes, exactly. You're gonna have a good old time.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see this show. Does it have a release date yet? It's this sometime this fall.
I was actually just trying to see if I could find it real fast because I really do think I saw the Lifetime series with Bill Pullman, and I think this is just going to be off the charts good.
It's going to be so good.
It's so well written. And the passion of all the people on the staff who are writing as well, they were so intense about their knowledge was so deep about this case. And it is a crazy, crazy, crazy case. But also Jason Clarke, because Jason Clarke, I do all my scenes with Jason basically because I'm his cousin, and only a little bit with Patricia, who I had to remind her of a couple of things that we actually worked together twice before.
She didn't remember.
I think one of the films at least, were probably a film you'd probably not want to remember working on. But when I remind her, she's like, oh, yes. Oh, my God. Anyway, Jason Clarke works very much the way I like to work. Which is you just let it go. You play. You're not worried about the words. You're not worried about getting things right. You know what you're doing. You know exactly how you feel about it. And whatever comes out of that comes out of it. And sometimes it's off book. It finds different things, a whole different life than you ever preconceived. And he does that like big time. And I've seen his work before, but he never like this, where I got up close and personal to see us both doing South Carolina lowland accents, dialects, and he's from Australia, which I really never even knew before because I've never seen him do a part with that kind of dialect.
I've seen him do some interviews. I absolutely love his work. And when I saw an interview, I was shocked by his accent. I'm trying to get him to come play here for a second so I could dig into some questions for him. He is brilliant. Patricia as well. Patricia is just a force. She's in her own land and circus. And what I love, she said so many times too, she's auditions. I'm not giving you it. I'm figuring it out. We're figuring it out together. What are you talking about? This doesn't need to be this performative based thing. And you can see that in her work, how she's very free. There's something very freeing about.
She's always been that way. Yeah. I worked with her on another movie called Trouble Bound, and we sat down for a few hours. And I remember she had her little artist journal out, and it was her way of working on that particular part. And I was looking through it with her and seeing how, this is how she puts together things. And she'll cut things out of magazines, images of stuff that make her feel a particular emotion. And that's how that's her shorthand into the emotional life of her character, at least at the time. Now, this was back in the 90s. Now she's evolved even more. So who knows what it is now.
Now I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and that's what I'm curious. Other than reading the script 200 times, since your way of working has evolved from method to this to that, what is the thing that you do to get into the world, into the character, and know what you want? Other than reading the script, do you even do anything other than that?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes the script requires a backstory and a real relationship with somebody that has depth. And for me, I like to do a lot of fantasy work, and I do that through journaling. So when I journal, it helps me connect with, I actually live through something in my imagination. And sometimes I'm even crazy enough to be acting imaginary scenes out in my bedroom. And once you do that, it's in you. You've had the experience. It's like anything else in life. And then it will more than likely, if you're letting yourself go, inform what you do. Sometimes I have to read about the person. I did Capote. I actually read In Cold Blood 6 times. I read the book 6 times, and of course the script 100 times. But I also listened to all of Dick Hickok's transcripts. So however he talked, which there wasn't a great deal of information on that because a lot of it was written, but the stuff that I could listen to, I listened to over and over again. And not to try to mimic him, but just to let his voice, his accent, his tone give me a sense of who he was. Because there's a lot of information in that your subconscious can pick up on.
I love that a lot of your technique is also in repetition. We just absorb things differently when it's just constant repetition, absorbing it differently, reading it when you're cold, reading it at night, reading it tomorrow. It's something I haven't heard, I think, in a while on the podcast. Okay, this is going to be hard. You can give me many. Favorite actor you've worked with?
Oh my God. Oh
I
yeah.
know.
Amazing.
All of my rapid fire questions are going to be hard for you, Mark, because
Wow.
you've been working for so long.
I've worked with so many great actors that
You've
I've
already
been.
mentioned just a couple. Like, give me a couple more. And what you,
Okay, let me tell you. I'll tell you a couple that I've probably already mentioned, but Philip Seymour Hoffman. I love Philip Seymour Hoffman and miss him dearly. I think he was a genius. And working with him, it wasn't just working with him that was great because he was so open and improvisational. It was his generosity. He was a generous actor on and off the boards, right? So he was very generous to me. The things he said about me off camera were unbelievably generous. And the way he acted with me was unbelievably generous. And I loved talking with him about acting. And my wife would often read articles of his interviews and she'd say, this is before we worked together. She said, fuck, Philip Seymour Hoffman thinks exactly like you do. You guys are like separated at birth. And I'm like, yeah, but he's a genius. I'm just a guy. He's a genius. And from both Jeff Goldblum and Jeff Bridges, Jeff Bridges was to me, when I worked with him in The Big Lebowski, I thought, even though he was very acclaimed, I thought he was underrated. And when I watched him work, I thought he was an absolute genius. Like he had the perfect combination of technical prowess. Like he was aware of the stuff that was going on in a way that a lot of actors don't like to be aware of, but completely and totally leaving himself alone and free. And he would watch playback almost every time he did a take. And he would look at it thoughtfully and then go back and change subtle things based on the playback. And I thought, holy fuck, I've always been afraid to watch myself. Talk to Jeff Goldblum. He's like, no, do it. It's great. It's great. You should do it. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot. And I started watching playback. So whenever I was a regular on something, I'd be, can I see that again? And they'd show it to me. And if I wanted another take, I'd go for another take. But playback was something I don't want actors to be afraid of. If you can get playback, do it. Because sometimes you think something's coming off. And
exactly. And it's not. It's not. You're like, I am being angry. And the director keeps, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, nope, that's not reading. It's not reading at all. It's really nice. I think we just learn so much about ourselves. We can be much more objective to influence our instrument versus being so precious about whatever the fuck. I don't adhere to the people that are like, I can't watch myself. I'm like, then why are you in this? That's an odd, I think an odd thing that actors that don't watch themselves, that get so in their heads.
I think it's a young thing to be, and even though some older actors just have never gotten over it, I actually think it's a young thing. Like you think you're going to become self-conscious, and self-consciousness is the enemy of good acting. And so you don't want to do that, but you're not crazy. You're on a film set. You're not. So there's an aspect of you that will always be aware that you're acting. Now, the joy of acting is that you can be immersed and full and have these great experiences as if it's real. That's the joy of acting, right? That's what keeps us from being crazy and psychopathic. That's how you can do Hamlet every night without going actually crazy, because there's the joy of creation element to it because you're on stage. Jeff Goldblum also taught me not to be afraid of voiceover, like an ADR, which I used to hate. Now I love it. Now I can actually improve performances with it.
Yes. That's why I love it too, where I'm like, play that back. I didn't like that. Can we, I can change the cadence right here. I can change an operative word and it changes everything I just said. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to divide this into two. Favorite director. Let's do film director. Let's do television director.
Oh my God.
And
my favorite, whether
what did they bestow? Yeah. And what did they bestow upon you that you took on to the next thing and the next thing? Yeah.
Whether I've worked with them or not? Or just who I've worked with? I think
who you've worked with. Because look, it's a laundry list of who you've worked with as well. The list is incredible.
Yeah, let me see. David Lynch was awesome. And I got from him a sort of playfulness, that he has a vision that's very eccentric. You often don't know where the ride is going to take you. And sometimes that's a really good thing. Let's see, Joel Schumacher, I think he just trusts actors. And I think 90% of the directing he does is in the casting room. That may be true for all directors. And he just leaves you alone. And very rarely does he come up to you and say something. And it's usually not result oriented. My favorite director was David Mamet, because he's one of the only directors, I say one for a reason. He's one of the only directors that gave me an action. And I was nervous about working with David Mamet because it was like, holy shit, I'm working with David Mamet. He's written the script. I can't fuck up these words because I hear he's really crazy about the words. in the end, he wasn't crazy about the words, and he gave me an action. He said, look, try to escape. And I love that. I'm like, ooh, good. So my 3 pages of dialogue is going to come out of me trying to escape. I love that.
Yes. What a nice literally direction. Yeah. Okay. What's the one thing that you've done that not many people would see that you would wish more people would go back and revisit? You've got you have a library, Mark. You could just have a whole library. But what's one thing that you wish that more eyes would have seen?
I would say two things. I got to play a part on The Closer that was very unusual, that I don't normally get cast in. And I thank James Duff for that because it was great. And there I actually used people in real life as a character study. So my character was Gavin Q. Baker III, and I was Kira Sedgwick's defense attorney through the last season of the show. And my character, I did a combination of Carson Kressley and Tim Gunn. I don't know if you know those two guys.
Yes. Yes. And did you go into did you audition for that? Did you have to go?
I did.
And you went in with that perspective?
I went in there with that and I auditioned for it and they were blown away. And I did that. And I actually thought the character was more flamboyant. But when I look back on it, I've actually done more flamboyant characters than that. Because I think Tim Gunn was the reserved element to the Carson Kressley aspects of it. So I think he tempered Carson Kressley. So that, and I did this movie called Bad Turn Worse with Mackenzie Davis and Jeremy Allen White. And so Jeremy Allen White's huge now, right? Because of The Bear. Mackenzie
had her moment too. What was the name of the show? She's so good.
Station 11, #1, and Halt and Catch Fire.
Fire.
She was amazing.
Yes.
Okay. I knew when I met her, I was like, I did a couple of scenes with her. I'm like, you're going to be a freaking star. I'm just telling you, you're going to be a freaking star. She just had that confidence. And not only that confidence, but she just worked organically. And Jeremy had already been on Shameless for maybe 2 or 3 seasons. So he was a young kid, but never forced anything. But my character, Gif, has these long, crazy speeches and does all kinds of crazy, horrible things to people. But I actually really enjoyed playing that part, and I wish more people would see it. It was a little movie, Bad Turn Worse. I hope more people see it because everybody's good in it, I think.
That cast. Okay. So speaking of the amount of roles that you've done, how deep you go, where you go into research. I know that this is fun for you, Mark, but I don't think a lot of people talk about a recovery process. Do you have a recovery process for when you go in too deep or you're servicing the material so much? What is your recovery process?
Yeah, so now I don't need that kind of thing. But when I was in my late 20s, I did. For example, when I did A Murder of Crows, I was shooting in New Orleans for 2 weeks. And the story is a revenge story, basically. And I'm the guy who wants revenge for something terrible that happened in my life. Every day was homework for me. So I'm from New Orleans. I was a professor in Tulane University. So I went everywhere in New Orleans and I knew exactly what happened in every place with my family in New Orleans. And I was in such a dark hole for those 3 weeks that I thought I was literally going to lose my mind. And I literally said, I got to stop. And I flipped on some Laurel and Hardy and I just started watching comedy for the next 2 or 3 days. And that decompressed me. I was also doing research for this other film that never ended up happening, but I was reading like 7 or 8 books on serial killers and one book in particular. And I do all kinds of imagination work at night. Like I'd be laying in bed and I'd be thinking and stuff. And I remember I was like, this is really way too much information, but I think it's important because people can go there. I was driving this girlfriend of mine home and I remember looking at her and thinking, I wonder how I would kill you and where I could bear. I was literally going through this manipulative, weird, psychopathic thought in my head and went, what? And just immediately started realizing that I had to balance that out with some happy stuff. So listening to good music, decompressing, meditating, doing yoga, exercising, watching comedies, knowing that it's just your imagination. That's it. And you can get out of it at any time. It's like you have a safe word. Okay, I'm done. That's your safe word.
Right?
Leave.
Yeah, no, I think when I talk about this a lot, because I use a lot of visualizations or I do sense memory for certain characters, and your brain doesn't know anything different between a fake memory or a real memory. If you're using all the senses, it's there. It's now a part of you in
Yep.
some weird way. What is one of the best lessons you've learned from one of the characters that you've played, or some of the lessons learned?
I think the best lesson I've learned is from Lucifer, that the character Lucifer that I played for many years, because that character changed over the years based on the writing and based on the feedback they'd get from the audience. But I learned that less is more. Like in season 5, Lucifer is very scary, but also very funny. And
Mhm.
that because he understates horrible things. And so I realized that I don't have to play anything. I just have to know what I'm doing. And then the later Lucifers, I just realized that, hey, playing like a kid is the most important thing. A kid, a 5-year-old kid, you say, okay, we're going to play cops and robbers. Okay, who am I? You're the robber. Okay, go. And they just go, right? They don't need to go
Yes.
to acting school for 2.5 years to figure
Yeah.
out how to do that. They just play. And that's what Jason Clark does. That's what I've now been doing for the last few years. I just play and see what goes up sticks and what doesn't.
Yeah. I love that. I love getting back to this. Okay, this is going to be a really hard question. Best rap gift that you've received or given?
Oh my Lord.
Not what
That's
you thought.
yeah, no, I have to think back. Actually, it's something I got to keep from the set. So it was a leather jacket that Lucifer wore that the wardrobe gave to me. There was a super cool leather jacket that I got to keep. So I can't say like a Mazda. Like I think the people
No,
who all the actors
yeah,
from 1941, I think got a Mazda
yeah.
or something like
Or
that
a
from Steven
house.
Spielberg or a
Yeah.
house. No, I never.
Okay, one more. Most memorable first day experience. You've done over 100+ projects, even more than that. What's
Yeah,
been your most memorable first day experience?
that's very interesting. I think the first time I worked before I knew anything about acting. And I was working on a massive set, like a $20 million movie with Whoopi Goldberg and Sam Elliott and Brad Dourif, who I had known from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But I was just in wonder at this process that they called acting. And I didn't know anything about it. And so just being involved in this massive film with these actors who I knew and liked and just trying to keep up with them, even though I didn't know at all what I was doing, was just a marvelous experience. Every day felt like a film in itself. Just the
Mhm.
fact that I was in my honey wagon talking to the actor who played my partner, he was a veteran. He was like, I was looking up to him because I was the newbie, and watching like Brad Dourif work and going, is that how you're supposed to work? It's different every time he's doing the take. It's not the same. Is that the way it's? I was literally wondering about the craft of acting as I was watching these people work, and that was really amazing for me just to get a taste of the world, just to get a
Yeah.
taste of the world.
And then how do you celebrate now? Think about from that first time when, as actors, we get so excited just to get a job at the beginning. And then you have a career. And then you're starting to go from show to show to show. You've just completed another wonderful show. You and your wife are both in the business, around the business. What elements do you still celebrate, or what gets you excited still, Mark?
I think it's now becoming about what can we create? What can my wife and I create that's really fun? She just wrote a movie in 3 weeks, a comedy called Je Suis Hamlet that we shot in Paris that looks really good. And I think it's going to be good. It's a mockumentary. It's going to be me doing a part that most people have never seen me do before. So I think it's really fun. And she's a great writer. That's my wife. She wants to write a detective mystery with me as the lead detective. And I think it's about creating stuff, putting
Creating
our
your own
own
stuff.
stuff out there,
Yes.
as much as we
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
And what's the one thing that you would either go back and change, or what do you tell actors? You guys encounter so many actors all the time. I'm sure you get asked this question all the time. What's something that you would say that normally you don't normally say to actors about the career, not about auditioning, about just being a journeyman in this career?
I think for the first 10 years, I was focused on technique. And that's fine. But this is also a social business. And there's nothing wrong with getting to know people. And my teacher was sort of anti-Hollywood, so I never did that in the first 10 years. And I never really immersed myself in film study, just acting study, just plays and rehearsing and stuff like that. And so I never fell in love with cinema until meeting my present wife, who is a filmophile. And she got me into seeing how important a medium film can actually be and really loving the process of film and seeing what a beautiful art it is. And also me loosening up and realizing I can talk to people. You don't have to be an intense method actor and all weird and poetic. It's actually harder to be joyful. It's deeper to be joyful and alive and happy than it is to be the other thing. And so actually networking and getting to know people and going to things that I've been invited to, those are all very valuable things. I don't do it just to be seen. I do it because I genuinely have a good time with the people that I know I'm going to see there. And I like talking to the people that I'm going to see there. So don't be afraid of that stuff. And also be bold. When you work, be bold. Don't hold back anything. Like, I know people who leave the audition. If you kick yourself leaving the audition, go back. Say, look, I know I can do it better. Can I just have one more chance at it? Or can I have another shot while you're there? Don't go away kicking yourself. That's the stuff you're going to regret. All they can do is say, no, thank you. We've seen enough.
And I have to be so transparent. That was a big reason why I was like, I need Mark to come and sit in the hot seat again, because you have been so bold, even through your method days. You've just been encompassing of what you want to do and how you want to be. And I think that is really something that a lot of actors can take away and emulate from this.
Can I tell you a moment where I wasn't, where I think if I had it to do over again, I would do over again?
Yes.
So there was a time when Oliver Stone was going to be doing a movie called Me Lie, which I don't think he ever ended up doing. I get called in to read this big speech as one of the soldiers. I walk in and the casting director, Oliver Stone, is sitting in the seat. It's like a stage. So he's sitting in the seats with big notebooks in front of him, all this work in front of him. And he's looking down, he's writing. The casting director comes in, she goes, Mr. Stone, this is Mr. Pellegrino. He's down here like this. He says, hey, and he just goes back to writing. I look to the casting director. She looks at me. I'm like, we're not saying it, but we're both saying, what are we supposed to do here? She just has me sit. She turns on the camera and I do the speech. And then after I'm done, he goes, thank you. And then just goes back to his work. Now, I look back on that. I'm like, what a fucking idiot I was. What I should have done was sat down. And when she says roll, no, we're not going to roll yet. When Mr. Stone is ready, when he's looking up and paying attention to me, and when he's done with that work, then we will roll. Until then, I'll just sit here quietly until he's done. And then I guarantee, because I know a guy who actually did that. And then
John Bernthal, a close friend of ours.
Did Johnny do that?
Johnny, yes. John,
yes.
Oliver was eating a sandwich and he was like, hey man, whenever you're done with your lunch, I got stuff to show you. And somebody else that did, it wasn't Johnny that you were talking about? It wasn't John? It was a different actor that you were talking about that put Oliver Stone in his place as well?
Yes. I believe it might have been Titus Welliver. I could be wrong, but he should have listened. Thank God he listened to Johnny, because Johnny might have actually smacked him one.
Well, exactly.
I saw Oliver Stone like years later on a plane, and he was just sitting right in front of me. And I was like, I was still burning over it but he had his wife there or somebody, and I didn't want to make a scene in front of his wife, but I was so close to looking. I auditioned for Me Lie, dude, and you were the biggest fucking dick I've ever auditioned for in my life. Fuck you. I almost said that.
I am so surprised that that's how, Mark, that you handled that audition. I would have put you in John.
Never again.
Never again.
Never again.
And
Never
John
again.
got the movie. John,
of course,
he did the World Trade Center because he was like, oh my God. I think somebody of that stature that doesn't give the respect I think that is deserved in the room, as soon as somebody demands that respect on them, they're paying attention. Now you also have to be good.
No, I'll tell you what, though, that's a test. I didn't pass the test, and I think Stone was testing. And I think he was seeing if somebody has enough self-esteem to stand up to him. And at the time, it was just one of those weird moments where you you just didn't stick up for yourself, and now you look back on it. That's why I stick up for myself now all the time, because I remember that moment, and I don't ever want to feel that way again, ever.
No, not at all. You spent all this time, and just to be witnessed, to have somebody to actually witness that. I do actually have one more question, Mark, because you've been at this for so long. What's the one role that got away? That feels like you got away? One role that you wish you would have fucking gotten? And which role do you wish you could steal right now?
So I can answer the first one pretty immediately, because I went up for it a couple of times and I thought I was in the final callbacks. Of course, I didn't. So I went up for Thelma and Louise. I went up for the Brad Pitt part, and I was in the final callbacks with Ridley Scott, Lou DiGiamo. I was in there with them, literally an hour-long audition, super fun audition. I'm glad Brad got the part. I was in contention for that, and clearly what happened to him. What part would I like to play now that's out there?
Yeah, what part would that is out right now that you're like, God, if I could steal that, what I would just do with that?
The parts that I really respond to right now, like Mobland, Tom Hardy's character in that, but also Peaky Blinders. I just love that character who he's heroic. He's on the dark side of the hero spectrum, but he's heroic and in control and 17 moves ahead of everybody else. Peaky Blinders was just one of my favorite shows of all time, and he was so amazing in it. He had this, if you can carry that world like those guys do, that's enormous. So I'd love to do something like that, because they're complex characters.
So complex. I'm
addicted to Moblands now, like watching, what's Tom Hardy's character's name in that again? I forget right now. I can't
remember right now either.
Yeah, but he's so gentle and kind and understanding. And then you see him open up around episode 6, and you see exactly what he can do to you and how he's 17 steps ahead of you. It's a brilliant way to play a quote unquote bad guy. There's no bad guys.
There's no bad guys. Nope. I also would love to see, there's a couple of roles lately that Peter Sarsgaard has done that I've thought about you for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I love his stuff.
Yeah. I love his stuff. Presumed Innocent. I loved him in that. Yeah. I could have seen you, Mark, doing that. I'm excited to see what you and your wife put out there. And it's always a delight to see your work.
Thank you.
It is such a delight to get to revisit this conversation and have it be out for a wider audience. Because I'm still sitting on the book. All of those interviews that everybody did in the early days of this, I've got like 250 fun stories just kicking around that might come out as a book at some point. But if we get to dive deeper a little bit and understand process and just understand the longevity of a working actor, you are the epitome of the best working actor journeyman that I think we've had on the podcast in a long time. So
thank you.
God, it's a joy to watch you work. And because you enjoy it so much. I always say when I'm teaching too, it's like, if you're having a good time, we're having a good time. Like it's such a joy. Are you on social media? Is there anything where people can follow along if they want to be coached by your lovely wife or be in your guys' guys?
Yes.
Tag it out.
Actually, you can follow me on Instagram, Mark Ross Pelly. Make sure to check Mark there. And I think I have my devil face on there, so I'm fairly easy to find. The school is Playhouse Paris, and that's on Instagram as well. And you can follow Playhouse Paris, and you will probably follow our antics. I think we might be putting up the Play Dreamer Examines His Pillow by John Patrick Shanley at some point, maybe in the fall. I'll be playing the dad, of course.
Yes.
I put it up. When I put it up the first time, I was the young guy. Now I'm going to be playing the dad. But I think it's going to be good. We have a troupe of fine young actors over there now, and Tracy is really taking France by storm. They're hungry for the Meisner technique, and she's one of the best teachers of it there is.
How often are you guys there? Are you there right now?
No, I'm in LA right now. She's been there since February. Her visa demands that she stays there 9 months out of the year. So usually I go in the fall and in the spring. This spring I couldn't make it because I was doing Murdoch, and there were and I have some conventions that I'm doing, so I couldn't quite make it this time around. But hopefully in the fall, I'll be down there and working with everybody on stuff.
That'll be beautiful. It'll
be fun.
This was a delight. Thank you.
Thank you.